9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Hang on to those phone calls for just a bit because I got a guest on the phone that we need to talk about something that's an international topic, but it's at times complicated because we're talking about a feud that goes back a long way. And because it goes back such a long way, and your news media is not much better at clearing up exactly what's going on. I don't think they understand it either, for that matter. It's a good idea just get somebody on who knows what he's talking about. This gentleman has a long resume. Dr. Anthony Harper served as lead White House investigative journalist regarding anti-Semitism and constitutional freedom violations. He also served as chaplain. Dr. Harper holds a doctorate in psychology, and that resume just goes on and on. So that he's speaking here in Wyoming, in Casper and in Riverton on May 29th, May 30th, and June 6th at several events. So I'm glad, thank you, Dr. Harper, for coming on the program today, because when we talk about what's happening in Palestine, in the Middle East, at some point our skulls, I think, get all muddied with this goes back how long and there's how many people fighting over it. It gets confusing, doesn't it?
It surely does, Glenn. Actually, this is a very this is a long history to this Palestinian issue. Really, I would trace back to Ishmael and Isaac.
Yeah.
There's some jealousy issues that are going on, but for a lot of people that don't know about the Palestinian issue, is that just a simple history check. Anyone can look this up. Is about the Roman Emperor Hadrian. And about the 2nd century A.D., and him referring to this, renaming this land Palestine, an insult to the Jews. He was wanting to disconnect them with their land, and even going back to Herodotus, a Greek historian, 500 B.C. So common information, and we can look it up.
Well, now,
so many different sources.
When we go back and take a look at this, but you correct me on this, because I look at history and I think, okay, weren't there peoples there, and then the Israelites showed up and took the land, but it was taken back from them, and back and forth it's gone over time as this one little strip of land has been constantly disputed?
Right. Well, go back to the time. Yeah, go back to the time of Abraham.
Right.
So there were the Canaanites.
Yeah.
The Canaanites and them being displaced, Abraham moved in, and anyway, yeah. The Israelites were there, and the Philistines, the ancient enemy for Israel, and that Roman, the Greek historian Herodotus was talking about using the word Philistina, but it's really to kind of reminding Israel of their ancient enemy, the Philistines. Right. The current word Palestine is just a derivative of the word Philistine, and we're seeing this all played out, aren't we, Glenn?
Yeah. So are we still fighting about the same thing today after all this time, or does this really go back to when Israel became a nation again?
Oh, it's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
This jealousy here, but Israel became a nation in 1948. The battle's been going on. And a lot of people really don't know about this whole Palestine state issue, which I was at the White House last week. I had a private meeting with the press secretary. On several occasions, she's saying that President Biden is fully supportive of Palestinian state as the solution, but people don't realize the Palestinian state would divide Israel, be a huge national security problem. They don't have bad enough problem with withdrawing from Gaza. A Palestinian state would normally include, and there's a map that President Trump and Jared Kushner sent out to everyone about this peace plan map, and that shows a Palestinian state in the heartland of Israel. So my question to this administration is how's it going to work out to be more peaceful when Israel withdrew from Gaza, became more violent, and then they give away a heartland of their nation, and it's just to me it's crazy.
Right. Is there any place to form a Palestinian state, or is it possible to form a Palestinian state and still keep Israel as it is right now?
Well, they could go into Jordan, but Jordan doesn't want these people. Yeah. I mean, and I think the overall issue is the issue of Palestinian is that there is no race of there's no Palestinian race of people.
Mm-hmm.
They are Arabs or Jordanians. There's never been a Palestinian race of people. Now, actually, anyone that was living in that land, according to Caesar, would probably be referred as a Palestinian.
Right.
So Jews, Muslims, whatever, Christians. So.
But hasn't there been, and I could have sworn I've read that there have been times in the past where the groups have actually gotten along for a while and there really haven't been any problems. They found a way that everybody can just sort of live together. Not in the recent past, but there were times.
Yeah, it's a fleeting moment. Probably some fleeting times during the time of the Ottoman control. British actually got out of there because they're having so much problems with that. But, there has been some sense of, civility to a very slight degree. But, placating terrorism or placating terrorists is not the solution. And as long as Iran is fueling the fire, and it really doesn't help, when, I was reading today about Geraldo Rivera and, there's several congresswomen, the famous AOC or Tlaib, whatever. Their anti-Semitism is not allowable. It's very disturbing that we're seeing a great rise in anti-Semitism, Glenn.
I'm talking with Dr. Anthony Harper, who will be speaking in Wyoming, Casper, and Riverton, May 29th, 30th, and June 6th, if you want to hear him and have some questions as well. So when I look at it, you brought up just something I was going to bring up a moment ago, which is Iran. We'll get into the news media in just a bit. But there are, I guess, some players in this game that are not necessarily living directly on the border there with Israel, but still they find a way to go after Israel through the Palestinians. This is what it looks like to me. They're just using them as pawns.
Yeah, it's a proxy war. Iran loves this situation, I believe very clearly. So it's so sad, what is going on, and people blaming Israel for this violence. And, even the press secretary said Hamas is a terrorist organization. Mm-hmm. Hamas using people as human shields, being cowards, hiding behind people. And Israel has a right to defend itself, this administration says. But yet there's a confusing signal, Glenn. How on one hand, you're saying that they have the right to defend themselves, but yet on the other hand, giving money to terrorists. Mm. I mean, terrorist organizations include the UN agency UNRWA, that's training children to hate the Jews in their curriculum, in their textbooks. They don't call this land Israel. They call it Palestine, and they really incite the children to hate the Jews and label them as occupiers. With that going on, and the the Palestinian Authority is a terrorist organization. So it doesn't make sense to be giving money to a terrorist organizations, and there's no way that we can trust them using their humanitarian aid just for that specific purpose. But there's plenty of evidence of it being diverted towards terrorist activities. And Glenn, it's very emotional.
So that's a UN organization, which doesn't surprise me too much, but that's a UN organization doing this, huh?
Yeah. UNRWA stands for the United Nations Relief Workers Agency. Started in 1948 when the displaced Arabs. Humanitarian aid was given, things about their food and education, all that. It quickly became a propaganda tool of, for those that hate Israel. And, because of all this, I was involved asking some challenging questions at the White House, and we got attention of President Trump, Senator James Risch of Idaho was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee then, and the investigation was looked into this in the GAO, and it showed that the UN agency UNRWA was lying to the State Department, giving them glowing reports that they were lying, and then President Trump defunded it. Now this administration is wanting to refund a terrorist organization. And, not only that, Glenn, but other forms of anti-Semitism exist, such as the desecration of a Jewish cemetery in Vilnius, Lithuania.
I'm talking with Dr. Anthony Harper, who will be speaking in Casper and Riverton on May 29th, 30th, and June 6th. Now, I'm not done with you. I got more questions for you, Doctor. But first, for those events that you're going to be speaking at in Casper and Riverton, where and how do people come to see you? When as well?
Okay, well, Saturday, May 29th, this Saturday in the Trona County Library, 3 p.m. Sunday at Sunrise Baptist Church. There in Casper at the 10:30 a.m. service, or Sunday night, the Liberty Baptist Church, of course. And there's Riverton, as you mentioned. This will be at the Gathering Place Sunday morning at 9:30, and then Holiday Inn Riverton Convention Center in the evening at 7 p.m. Sunday, June 6th. And hopefully they'll be able to share it at more places, and people feel free to contact me. So,
all right, I have plenty more questions for you, Dr. Harper. Hang on just a moment. We have a news and information break. 9:17, Wake Up Wyoming.
Welcome to the WyoPreps Daily Radio Report, powered by the WyoPreps mobile.
9:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Dr. Anthony Harper is an expert on what's happening in Palestine with Israel and Gaza and the mess that it is. He will be speaking in Wyoming, in Casper and Riverton, May 29th and 30th, and on June 6th as well. And we'll give out that information again as to exactly where and when you can go ahead and see him. Doctor, when I take a look at the mess that and how long this has been going on that little strip of land, that one little strip of land that could be that little spark that gets the whole world going, if you think about it, is there really any solution to this, or just go on throughout the rest of human history?
Oh, there is a solution, but I don't think people want the solution. I really think President Lincoln had the solution for America very well. In the middle of the Civil War, I've tried to educate people at the White House about Lincoln's solution. Of course, they're not too fond of Republicans at this point, but President Lincoln is admired by a lot of people, a lot more than the current administration or President Trump. But President Lincoln said in the middle of the Civil War, America as a nation has forgotten God. We have become too proud and arrogant and too self-reliant, too proud to pray to the one that created us. And by the way, his proclamation on humiliation and fasting is at the top of our news website at imcnews.org. But it's good to be familiar with what he said. Very convicting words that we need to return to God, according to Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, Dr. Alveda King, in her book, America Return to God. It's a call for America to get back to its roots.
Yeah. But in the meantime, though, is when we take a look at what's happening in the Gaza Strip with the kids specifically. I've seen videos. I've watched how some of these young people are being raised. Talk about propaganda to think of the Israelis as quite literally not even human beings. How do you recover from that?
I know. I think really it takes place in our education system, and I want people to know about what is really going on. And before I forget to mention about the different forms of anti-Semitism, BDS, boycott domestic sanctions of Israeli products, but that Jewish cemetery desecration in Vilnius website is savevilna.org, and then what things people can do, Glenn, is they can make conditions. This administration can make conditions on any humanitarian aid. There's got to be accountability. You just can't give money blindly. The condition that there be no violence, no training of children to violence or incitement in these UN schools, and with money given to, of course, Palestinian Authority for Humanitarian Aid. No pay for slay. No families rewarded for their family members killing Jewish people. There's several things that can be done on our part to condition aid.
Right. Well, now here's the hard part, Doctor, and I hate to think this way, but I like to be a little more realistic about it. There's a way we would like to play this out. There are solutions that we imagine in our head. If we did this, maybe it would make things better. But then there's the way this is probably all going to play out. I mean, does this have any kind of a happy ending or a resolution, or does it just continue this way for the next few thousand years?
Right. There there could be a happier ending to all this, but knowing human nature as we do, we haven't seen much cooperation on all this matter. It is a historical problem, and now it's become a hysterical problem as well. Very, very troublesome, Glenn. But I would encourage people to individually do what they can, and holding our leaders accountable, and requiring there be some conditions on any humanitarian aid. Just don't blindly give money to a problem, but there has to be strong oversight, and people can write their senator, their congressman. There's something we can do as individuals, and I'm trying to do what I can at the White House to educate them about the history of this issue.
Right. So I'm going to give you a line that I would like you to use. I mean, I'm just giving it to you for free. This quite literally is a historic crisis of biblical proportions.
Yes.
Yeah, it just actually goes back that far and just continues on to this day, and which is why I say for those people who are trying to figure out what's going on, it can be really confusing and frustrating to figure out, because it is a very long and complicated history that I just don't think. I mean, do you think of this as a solution that can happen within our lifetime, or because of the education of what's happening with the young people that it might take several generations to iron this out?
It can happen within our lifetime if people were really serious.
Yeah.
Of one mind and one purpose. But knowing human nature, I've rarely seen humans, get along for any length of time, and it's sad to say it's the fallen nature of humankind. Right. The Bible talks about that very clearly about our tendencies to be selfish.
Let's get people to where you're going to be. You're going to be in Casper, and you're going to be in Riverton. When and where?
Right. In Casper, in the Toronto County Library, this Saturday, May 29th at 3 o'clock. Sunrise Baptist Church, Casper, Sunday service 10:30 a.m. or Liberty Baptist Church Sunday evening, May 30th, then again on 6 p.m. Riverton is the gathering place in Riverton. Sunday, June 6th at 9:30 a.m. service, and of course, Holiday Inn in the evening, Sunday, June 6th, 7 p.m. And hopefully, I'll be able to share with a lot more people while I'm in the area.
All right, Dr. Harper, thank you for your time. Very educational. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Glenn. Thank you.
All right, Wake Up Wyoming.